agencies to review existing regulations and expand the ability of small businesses to challenge federal regulations. The Senate, meanwhile, wrapping up work today on the Defense Department Programs and Policy Bill for 2012. Follow that live on C-SPAN 2. And now to the House floor here on C-SPAN.
The House will be in order. Prayer will be offered today by our guest chaplain, Reverend Kathy Jones, from the Parkwood Institutional Christian Methodist Episcopal Church from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our Father, because of who you are and the glory that is revealed in your only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, we praise your holy name. Lord, your word declares, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. We ask for your unmerited favor upon the lives of every elected member of the House of Representatives to provide the wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and courage that will allow their hearts to be filled with the principles of justice, loyalty, compassion, humility, and love, so that we can continue to be united as one nation under God. In the name of him who is able to keep us from falling and present us faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. Amen.
The Chair has examined a journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. Pledge of allegiance today will be led by the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pasquale. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Chair will, without objection, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Watts, is recognized for 1 minute.
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks. I'll address the House for 1 minute. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to welcome Reverend Dr. Kathy C. Jones as the guest chaplain today for the United States House of Representatives. Since July 2009, Dr. Jones has served as pastor of Parkwood Institutional CME Church, which is located in my congressional district in Charlotte, North Carolina. Reverend Dr. Jones is a native of Chatham County, North Carolina. She received her associate's, bachelor's, and master's degrees from Justice Fellowship International Bible College in Raleigh, North Carolina. In May of 2010, she received her doctorate in biblical studies from Justice Fellowship Bible College in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Dr. Jones has been a pastor and served on different committees at the local and district levels during her time with the CME Church. She's married to Theodore Jones and has been blessed with 7 children, 19 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. On behalf of my constituents in the 12th Congressional District and my colleagues here in the House, I thank her for her service to her community and for her prayer this morning. Thank you. I yield back.
Jeff goes back. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. pursuant to the permission granted in Clause 2H of Rule 2 of the Rules of the U.S. House of Representatives. The clerk received the following message from the Secretary of the Senate on December 1, 2011 at 9:51 a.m. that the Senate agreed to House Amendment to Senate Amendment, H.R. 394, Appointments, National Commission for Review of Research and Development Programs of the United States Intelligence Community. Signed sincerely, Karen L. Haas.
The Chair will entertain up to 15 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, according to the Washington Times, last December, 5 Mexican nationals armed with at least 2 AK-47 rifles were infiltrating the rugged desert. The American desert, that is. That's right, Mr. Speaker. Cartel soldiers were reportedly on our side of the border in Arizona, patrolling in single-file formation with the goal of intentionally and forcibly assaulting Border Patrol agents. They spotted and opened fire on 4 U.S. Border Patrol agents, and Agent Brian Terry was murdered. 2 cartel assault weapons found at the scene were connected to Operation Fast and Furious. Mr. Speaker, you recall that's the operation where our government facilitated smuggling weapons to Mexican drug cartels, the enemies of Mexico and the United States. Military-type intrusions by the cartels will only increase. We need to defend our sovereignty, protect our Border Patrol and first responders. It's time to send military equipment coming back from Iraq to secure the southern border from the cartel soldiers. This veteran equipment includes Humvees, night vision equipment, and more UAVs. Incidents like this will only continue to occur until Washington elites realize what happens in Mexico doesn't stay in Mexico. And that's just the way it is.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose, gentleman from New Jersey rise? Without objection, gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, with our economy still struggling and unemployment remaining unacceptably high, now is not the time to take more money out of the pockets of hardworking Americans. The majority is opposing an extension of the payroll tax holiday enacted earlier this year that gave virtually all working Americans a much-needed tax cut. The payroll tax holiday cut the Social Security payroll taxes of over 160 million workers. Economic uncertainty here in the U.S. and abroad makes this a dangerous time to eliminate an important tax cut that is saving American families an average of $1,000 a year. Failing to extend the payroll tax holiday will raise taxes on millions of Americans, taking over $120 billion out of the pockets of consumers and out of the economy. In addition, failing to extend the unemployment insurance to those who have lost their jobs will take an additional $30 billion out of the economy and rob over 1 million unemployed Americans of much-needed income assistance. Now is not the time to end these important tax cuts. It is certainly not the time to put the plug on the unemployed in our economy. And I encourage my colleagues to pass both of these provisions as swiftly as possible.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose, the gentleman from Florida rise? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, today is the first day of Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week. Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis are diseases that collectively are known as inflammatory bowel disease. They are painful, they are incurable, they attack the digestive system, and they affect about 1 out of every 200 people in our country. A few weeks ago, Congressman Jackson and I formed a Crohn's and Colitis caucus to raise awareness in the Congress and to fight for additional federal support. And Crohn's and Colitis Week, Awareness Week, is part of that effort. Today we will file a House resolution which will support this Awareness Week, and hopefully as we work with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America, all Americans will use this week, this time, to join in this fight to raise awareness, to increase research, and to find a cure for this debilitating disease. Thank you.
What purpose, gentleman from Illinois rise?
To address the House for 1 minute, sir.
Without objection, gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of a resolution my friend, Congressman Crenshaw, and I introduced today supporting the goals and ideals of Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week, which begins today and runs through December 7, 2011. This resolution, which is identical to the Senate version adopted earlier this month, declares congressional support for Awareness Week, recognizes the patients living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and commends the dedication of healthcare professionals and biomedical researchers who care for those patients. Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis are chronic disorders of the gastrointestinal tract, affecting an estimated 1.4 million Americans, including 140,000 children under the age of 18. IBD remains the most prominent factor in morbidity caused by digestive illness. Again, thank you to my caucus co-chair for working with me on this important resolution, my colleagues who've joined as co-sponsors, as well as the Crohn's and colitis patients and their families, medical providers, and researchers for their advocacy. I urge my colleagues to co-sponsor this resolution and join the bipartisan Congressional Crohn's and Colitis Caucus, which advocates for enhanced patient care, treatment, and finding a cure for these debilitating diseases that impact both patients and their families. Again, Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and we yield back the balance of our time.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask permission to address the House for 1 minute revised to extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, for the past 2.5 years, our nation's unemployment rate has risen over 8%. The President continually develops policies that discourage and prohibit small businesses from creating jobs. Just last month, the administration announced the delay of the Keystone XL pipeline, a project estimated to create over 300,000 jobs without costing taxpayers a dime. I was fortunate enough to visit Alberta, Canada in October and witness firsthand the Canadian oil sands and the positive impact that exploration has for new American jobs. At the end of this legislative week, House Republicans will have passed 25 job creation bills. Sadly, they are stalled in the Senate. With a growing debt of over $15 trillion, it's absolutely necessary for Congress and the President to work together to promote job creation and ways to remove barriers to allow for small businesses to create jobs. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
To address the House for 1 minute, Commissioner Revising.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Pop Warner Little Scholars Program, our nation's oldest and largest youth football, cheer, and dance organization. Currently, more than 400,000 children participate in Pop Warner organizations that span 43 states, Scotland, Germany, Russia, Japan, and Mexico. The NFL Players Association estimates that Pop Warner has been the career starting point for 70% of its current athletes. And it has a long history of promoting structured athletics and instilling the qualities of sportsmanship, hard work, and leadership in young athletes. It's the only national youth sports organization to require academic proficiency, and it annually awards more than $110,000 in scholarships. It's also a leader in making youth sports safe, including its work on concussion-related injuries, and a medical advisory board to remain proactive on players' health and safety. This Saturday, December 3rd, Pop Warner will kick off its Super Bowl and National Cheer and Dance Championship at ESPN's Wild World of Sports complex in Orlando. This week-long competition will feature participation from more than 12,000 athletes and will be broadcast on ESPN3. I want to extend our congratulations, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the U.S. Congress to this excellent, well-recognized and well-organized program for young people here in America on behalf of the Congressional Caucus on Youth Sports. And with that, I yield back the remainder of my time.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio rise?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, one thing is certain. Excessive government regulations are hurting America's economy and strangling job creation. Just this year, new regulations cost our economy almost $100 billion, and this is just the cost of new regulations this year. The Small Business Administration estimates that regulation costs our economy approximately $1.75 trillion annually. This is unacceptable. With over 14 million Americans out of work, we can't afford these excessive government regulations. But instead of creating jobs, President Obama would rather create more regulations that kill jobs and burden small businesses. Now, House Republicans have done the exact opposite. As part of the House Republican plan for America's job creators, we're fighting to reduce the regulatory burdens to empower small businesses to create jobs. We've passed over 20 bills that will create much-needed jobs right now. President Obama and Senate Democrats need to work for job creation, not against it, because the people of eastern and southeastern Ohio and all Americans deserve better. With that, I yield back my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady rise? Gentlelady from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite what you might hear in this body, I believe that there are some regulations that we all can support. The National Traffic Safety Board concluded that pilot fatigue contributed to a crash of Continental Airlines Flight 3407, which crashed into a house in my district, killing 50 innocent victims nearly 3 years ago. The legislation passed by this body in response to this crash mandated new pilot fatigue guidelines to be implemented by August 1st of this year. That date came and went. Then we were told November 22nd. Then we were told November 30th. Those days have come and gone. The family of these victims have worked tirelessly for a resolution to make sure a tragedy like this never happens again. The millions of Americans who fly our skies every year are counting on us for regulations to ensure their safety. Let's not let them down. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
In November, the VA outpatient clinic in Harlingen, Texas, earned the Joint Commission's Gold Seal of Approval. This award recognizes facilities that comply with Joint Commission's national standards for healthcare quality and safety in ambulatory care, behavioral health care, and home care. There's no way we can adequately express our thanks to those who serve this country, but we must welcome them home and make sure they have access to the benefits and services that they have owned. Our servicemen and women deserve quality health care. The Texas Valley Coastal Bend health care system has earned this distinction because they demonstrate a commitment to meeting the health care needs of all South Texas veterans. My staff and I are passionate about helping veterans. South Texas is one of the most military and veteran-friendly places in the country, and I'll work hard to ensure that the service members and families receive the support that they deserve. While South Texas is served by great outpatient facilities, we are in desperate need of a full-service VA hospital. I'm the co-sponsor of two bills, H.R. 1318 and H.R. 837, that direct the VA to bring full-service inpatient care facilities to South Texas. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, as as co-chair of the Congressional Brain Injury Task Force, one of my top priorities is to help our service members with brain injuries, with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury recognized as the signature injuries of the conflicts and war in Iraq and Afghanistan. You would think the Defense Department would have a good system to catch the injuries. They do not. Despite our vote, a bipartisan vote in 2008 to have pre- and post-deployment screenings, post-deployment screenings have not been required. 500,000 soldiers with a pre-deployment cognitive test, we given that test before they went to the battle. Coming out, only 3 tests. 3,000 tests were done post-deployment to actually compare results. We have nothing to compare. This is a disgrace and a disservice to our troops. Both sides have agreed that we want something done. It has not been done in violation of the law. The Pascrell, Platts, Andrews, Cole, Ortiz, Wilson, Kaufman amendment passed in the House Defense Authorization Bill to address this, but is not included in the final bill. That's what we're trying to do this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents are rightfully fed up. President Obama has managed to create an economy where the only thing
things that are growing is power in Washington, debt for our children and grandchildren, a lack of confidence for job creators, and the number of unemployed Americans. When it comes to creating an environment to help the private sector create jobs, the difference between House Republicans and Senate Democrats is the difference between action and inaction. This year, under the House Republicans' plan for America's job creators, we have passed more than 25 pro-growth job bills. These bipartisan bills are aimed at restoring the freedom and confidence of job creators by breaking down the barriers preventing them from growing and creating badly needed jobs. Yet 21 of these bipartisan House-passed job bills are stuck in the Senate because Senator Majority Leader Harry Reid continues to put politics before jobs. It's time for the Senate Democrat leadership to join our fight for America and put them back to work. Pass these job bills.
Expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts rise? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I have heard from many struggling families in Massachusetts who simply don't know how they will make ends meet if Congress does not pass an extension of unemployment benefits before January 1. From Lowell, I am a 58-year-old man that has been unemployed for 2 years and 4 months. Finding a job these days is just about impossible. I am writing to you to beg you to please sign on to the unemployment extension bill. From Westford, I have been unemployed since January of 2010. I look for a job every waking hour. Cutting employment to millions of needy families at this time makes no sense. From Haverhill, if my unemployment ends, I will be unable to make my mortgage payments. Then my home will go into foreclosure and my neighbor's home's value will be depreciated. This is truly a ripple effect. Please don't be penny wise and pound foolish. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to work to pass this desperately needed extension. Thank you, and I yield back.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute and advise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the American people are calling on government to help the economy grow, but apparently Washington still hasn't gotten the message. The onslaught of new government burdens on the economy have become unbearable, yet federal regulators pile on more and more. So far this week alone, the Federal Register has over 1,799 pages of new rules and regulations facing our nation's small business owners. Mr. Speaker, complex and burdensome regulations drive up the cost of doing business and therefore drive up unemployment. A great example is the EPA's new cross-state air pollution rule. This rule, to be imposed by January 1st, will not only cause rolling brownouts in places like Kansas, but will dramatically drive up the cost of energy production, increasing the cost of doing business, and therefore putting more people out of work. Mr. Speaker, if both parties are serious about job creation in this country, then we must put a stop to the constant attacks on those who create jobs. I yield back.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to honor the President of California State University at Fullerton, Dr. Milton Gordon, and to recognize his upcoming retirement. For over 2 decades, Dr. Gordon's outstanding commitment to higher education has let California State University at Fullerton become one of the largest and one of the most inclusive institutions in our nation. Because of Dr. Gordon's vision and commitment for greater cultural diversity in higher education, the university currently ranks 9th in the nation in bachelor degrees awarded to minority students. And additionally, it ranks #1 in California among colleges and universities awarding bachelor degrees to Hispanics. Dr. Gordon's caring, articulate, and collegial nature created a sense of pride among the faculty, the staff, and students advocating for excellence in all aspects of the university life. It has been an honor for me to work with Dr. Gordon. He has been a mentor, he has been a shining light in Orange County, and I congratulate him on all his awards and distinctions, and I look forward to his next career, we hope to reel him in and continue to work on our communities. Thank you, Dr. Gordon, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back my time.
Gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I want to bring attention to a silent epidemic growing in our midst. Rising alongside long-term unemployment, the increases in poverty and food prices, homelessness, and the steep decline in household incomes is now the shocking rate of food insecurity and hunger. According to USDA, there are 46 million Americans surviving on food stamps. While Congress considers reductions to food stamp funding, the USDA predicts that the number of people requiring food assistance will substantially increase. Last week in my district in North Carolina, which ranks second in the country for food insecurity, I greeted thousands of people lined outside of the Wilson OIC and the food bank of the Albemarle Food Distribution Centers to collect bags of food for the Thanksgiving holiday. Mr. Speaker, to help remedy the challenges to food security, I introduced H.R. 3437, the Eva Clayton Fellows Program Act. This legislation would enable the development of solutions to world hunger and confront food insecurity head-on. Food insecurity is not a partisan issue. I urge my colleagues to join me in this fight. Thank you.
Its time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Delaware rise?
Seek permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a remarkable woman and to honor her decades of service to the state of Delaware. Former State Senator Nancy Cook has been a leader in strengthening Delaware agriculture and our economy for the past 40 years. Senator Cook has been an irrepressible leader since becoming Delaware's first female Democratic senator in 1974. For 36 years, Senator Cook served with distinction on the Senate Agriculture Committee, where she accomplished so much for Delaware farmers. Recently, a legislator remarked that agriculture had no better friend in Delaware Senate than this lady, and I couldn't agree more. In 1991, Senator Cook helped create the Ag Lands Preservation Program, which has preserved over 20% of Delaware's farmlands. In 1991, she helped establish Delaware's landmark Nutrient Management Program. The program is now a role model for the entire region in the effort to manage animal waste responsibly and protect precious bays and waterways. I would like to thank the Delaware Farm Bureau for its decision to honor Senator Cook with the Distinguished Service to Agriculture Award and to join the Bureau in celebrating an incredible leader for Delaware. Congratulations to my good friend Senator Cook. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Speaker, I have permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, opponents of financial regulatory reform in the Senate continue to prevent the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from fulfilling its legislative mandate. The CFPB has been open since July 21st, but it's taken 3 months for the Senate Banking Committee to advance President Obama's nominee for the director of the Bureau, Richard Cordray, to the full Senate. Now, continuing their strategy of partisan obstructionism, 44 Republican senators have pledged to oppose any of the President's appointees for the CFPB until the Bureau's mandate is weakened. Such naked obstructionism is a disservice to American consumers and the American economy, which is in bad need of certainty after a year of artificial crises fomented by the Tea Party-dominated Republican Party. The American people are sick of a dysfunctional Congress. We need the CFPB at full strength to move our economy forward, to protect borrowers and consumers, and promote the interests of Main Street over Wall Street. I call on the Senate to confirm Richard Cordray as Director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau now.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington rise?
The House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow's a sad day. Dr. Berwick will step down as Administrator of Medicare. It's a bad day for seniors. But the Senate Republicans are happy because they believe that getting rid of Don will end the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. When the Senate Republicans blocked the vote on Dr. Berwick, They made it possible only for a recess appointment for 18 months. Why do the Republicans fear Dr. Berwick so much? Hard to say. His career has been spent improving the quality of health care. He believes that we can have good quality health care and low cost. They're synonymous. He put patients first, believing in evidence-based medicine, and collaborates with others in the public good. His sin was that he once said a nice word about the British health care system, and therefore he has to go. Dr. Berwick's a great public servant, and the Republicans demonized him. Republicans have cynically prevented America's seniors from having the benefit of Dr. Berwick's vision and experience, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. We will do the Affordable Care Act in spite of the fact that Dr. Berwick is gone.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise?
Speaker, I'd like to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I came down here on the floor and I asked my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to work with us to move forward on a new middle-class payroll tax cut. A tax cut that would put more money in families' pockets, creating more demand for our businesses and resulting in more jobs. But time and time again yesterday, even this morning we've heard, my friends on the other side of the aisle have said the only obstacle to creating more jobs is regulations. Unfortunately, the evidence does not support this. Last Saturday, November 26th, was Small Business Saturday. I did my part by shopping all day in small businesses. And I talked to my small businesses and I asked them, what did they need from the federal government to help them in their businesses? And they told me, we need customers. That's what will help our businesses. We need customers who have a little more money in their pockets this year to spend in our businesses. It's not rocket science. And you know what? We don't have much time to wait. The longer we wait, the more likely it is that taxes will go up January 1st. Let's work together to pass a new middle-class payroll tax, put more money in the hands of Americans. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
For what purpose does the distinguished minority leader rise?
Consent to address the House.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today across the globe people are marking World AIDS Day. It's an opportunity to reflect upon the progress we've made in the fight against HIV/AIDS and this pandemic, and to rededicate ourselves to ending the disease once and for all. World AIDS Day is an occasion to remember friends, family members, loved ones, and millions of others lost to the disease. It is a solemn reminder of those still living with HIV/AIDS, whether in the cities of the United States or the villages of Africa, Asia, or elsewhere. It is a reminder of the need to continue the fight, to keep investing in research and medical advances, to stay focused on new treatments, care, prevention, and early intervention, a key element of quality of life, to expand housing opportunities with people with HIV/AIDS, to end discrimination. Yet it is also a reminder of how far we've traveled since the first World AIDS Day in 1988 and the first AIDS diagnosis, which we acknowledged recently, the 30-year anniversary of the first AIDS diagnosis. In my hometown of San Francisco, we learned early on of the terrible toll of HIV/AIDS and that the toll it could take on a community. But that knowledge, as sad as it was, drove us to action, advocacy, and progress. Because we had suffered so much, we could also become a model for the country and indeed the world with our community-based solutions in regard to prevention, to care, and to research for a cure or vaccine. This is something I'm very proud of, and really it found its way into legislation, the Ryan White Care Act, housing opportunity for people with HIV/AIDS, growing funding, increased funding for NIH research, expanded investments in prevention, care, treatment, and an end to the ban on federal funds for syringe exchange, something very important if you're going to prevent AIDS. Beyond our borders, we have extended care to millions in the developing world. Early on in our community, when we would have an AIDS mobilization day, right almost from the start, and Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey can attest to this, we understood that if you're going to meet the challenge of HIV/AIDS at home, you had to have a mobilization that was global. Because these AIDS knew no borders, but it had to be global. And so we would have these vigils of thousands of people walking in a great solemn way to talk about ending AIDS globally, almost right from the start, although we were feeling it very personally, very locally in our community. Beyond our borders, that's why we have extended care to millions in the developing world with increased resources for PEPFAR and the Global Fund. And I commend President Bush for his leadership on PEPFAR and the commitment that he made there. And I congratulate President Obama for the statement he made this morning, which increased funding for the Ryan White Care Initiative, that supports care provided by HIV medical clinics across the country, and additional funding for ADAP, the drug program initiative for people with HIV/AIDS, and his commitment of a new target of helping 6 million people around the world get treatment by the end of 2013. It's very important, and I commend Secretary Clinton for her strong leadership and her statement about ridding AIDS, especially among children, as soon as possible. The challenges that we've faced over the years, some have disappeared. When I first came to Congress, I was sworn in a special election, and they told me you're not allowed to speak. You just raise your hand and say, yes, I support and defend the Constitution. But then the Speaker, Speaker Wright, said, well, the gentlelady from California wished to address the House. And I had been told not to address the House, and if I did, to be very, very brief. So I stood up and acknowledged my family, my fatherhood. Thomas D'Alessandro had served as a member of Congress, so he was on the floor of the Congress, and my family, and thanked them all, and my constituents. And then my one sentence was, I came here to fight against HIV and AIDS, and that was about it. Well, my colleagues who had told me to be brief then said, why would you even mention that? This was 24 years ago. Why would you even mention that? The first thing that you want to say to members of Congress when you get here is that you're here to fight HIV/AIDS. Why did you say such a thing? And I said, well, I said such a thing because that's why I came here. But I never would have thought that that 24 years ago that we would project really into another generation now that we would not have a cure for HIV/AIDS. Never would have thought. But in the meantime, we've reduced discrimination, we've expanded prevention care, deepened our research, actually mobilized support, some like Bono on the outside using his celebrity to attract attention to the issue. Public policy, whether it's President Bush, President Clinton, and now with this global initiative and President Obama, we're at a completely different place than we were then, when they wouldn't even have an AIDS ribbon in significant places in Washington, D.C. Today, we all proudly wear that ribbon, and again, it's a day of reminder, but it's also a day where we act upon those reminders of the work that needs to be done. And again, it's a global challenge, but it's a very personal issue. So the statistics are staggering, but we think of them one person at a time. And that is what we have to act upon. This Congress has been great on the subject. I hope that we will continue to honor our responsibility. And again, on AIDS Day in San Francisco today, we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the AIDS Memorial Grove. This is something that this Congress designated as a national memorial, This is great significance for our community, for sure, I think very appropriately so, but also for the issue of AIDS. So when you go there, you have to go to the AIDS Memorial when you go west to see it as a spirit of renewal. A garden, a grove, always is that fresh new growth, as we have it as a remembrance, too, of those who have lost, and a comfort to their families. So with that, again, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I join others in calling to our colleagues' attention and those who follow Congress this importance of fighting HIV/AIDS to people, to communities, to our country, to the world, for our good health, for our economy, for the success of individuals. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Maya Angelou wrote, "If you find it in your heart to care for somebody else, you will have succeeded." On Thanksgiving night, Chicago lost a matriarch who, by Ms. Angelou's measure, was a magnificent success. We sadly lost Margaret Corbett Daley, or as she was better known, our Maggie. Maggie Daley embodied the heart of our city and grace under fire, even when her own health was failing. Her contribution to the arts and our children, most notably through the After School Matters program, changed countless lives and will continue to do so for generations. When Maggie was laid to rest this week, it wasn't just dignitaries who came to pay respects. Thousands of regular Chicagoans lined up for blocks in the rain to say goodbye. That's because Maggie transcended politics and reminded us that nothing is more important than family and each other. She is, of course, survived by her best friend and husband, former Mayor Richard M. Daley, her loving children, grandchildren, and friends. May she rest in peace and never be forgotten. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise? Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the Speaker. Rise today in commemoration, Mr. Speaker, of World AIDS Day, and I thank our minority leader for her eloquent recounting of how far we have come. In our best days, we can look to my dear friend, Magic Johnson, who has been a living example of the improvements and the courage of those who are living with the HIV infection. But we recognize that the 15 million people medically recommended for antiretroviral medication worldwide, only a half of these have access to drug treatment. In the United States, nearly 1 in 5 people with HIV, or 240,000 people, don't even know that they are infected. And communities of color and young gay and bisexual men face the most severe burden of HIV in the United States. Magic Johnson on one hand and my dying friend on another hand, being at the bedside of a person dying with AIDS who, one, lives with the stigma or lived with the stigma and didn't have a way out. Today, I will join others and be tested for the HIV virus, and I encourage others to do so. I congratulate my constituents, the Harris County Hospital District and the Thomas Street Clinic, for their 12th annual World AIDS Day. Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing that 6 million more people need to have access to AIDS prevention drugs. And to those who have lost their lives, may I say to you on this day that your life that was lost should not be in vain. We still look for a cure, and we work for a better nation and an opportunity to provide resources to those around the world and in the United States who still suffer. It is our challenge. We accept that challenge, and I believe someday we'll be victorious. To those who commemorate this day because they mourn, I commemorate it with you in your mourning. For those who celebrate life, I likewise celebrate life. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition?
For consideration of H.R. 3463.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 3463, a bill to reduce federal spending and the deficit by terminating taxpayer financing of presidential election campaigns and party conventions, and by terminating the Election Assistance Commission.
Pursuant to House Resolution 477, the bill is considered read. The gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Harper, and the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Brady, will each control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous materials on H.R. 3463.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent to enter a letter from the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology and a reply letter from the Committee on House Administration into the congressional record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
To begin, I would like to thank the Chairman of the Committee of Science, Space, and Technology, Mr. Hall, for his continued assistance in ensuring these important matters are considered by the House. He has been a helpful partner. Mr. Chairman, we live in uncertain times, with job creation stifled by crushing debt, but there are 2 things I am certain of: the necessity of cutting unnecessary spending and the fact that H.R. 3463 is a simple and straightforward way to do just that. H.R. 3463 cuts unnecessary spending in 2 ways. First, it ends the taxpayer financing of presidential election campaigns and party conventions, a program growing less and less popular for both taxpayers and candidates. Second, H.R. 3463 terminates the Election Assistance Commission, an obsolete government agency originally intended to sunset in 2005. Every federal program, including these, is there because someone thinks that it is a good idea. But if we do not eliminate some programs, then a $15 trillion debt will just be the starting point of our decline into a European-style fiscal crisis. Everyone talks about tough choices, and we have to make them. And frankly, Mr. Chairman, these choices are not even very tough. They are about as easy as we're going to find. Mr. Chairman, since 1976, American taxpayers have spent $1.5 billion funding presidential primary campaigns, presidential election campaigns, and national party conventions. My colleague from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole, has been a leader in trying to end those campaign subsidies, and I'm pleased to work with him today to continue that effort. When taxpayer financing of political campaigns and conventions was adopted, proponents said it would improve the public's trust in their government, clean up our politics, and increase the competitiveness of political campaigns. Sadly, it has failed on all counts. Now we find that more and more candidates are opting out of the system altogether. The Federal Election Commission has just this week confirmed that no presidential candidate to date has opted to participate for the 2012 election. Mr. Chairman, we're talking about eliminating a program that literally no candidate is currently using or preparing to use at this point. That includes President Obama, who in 2008 famously became the first presidential candidate ever to decline to participate in both the primary and general election phases of the program. And it's not just the candidates who don't like it. As this chart indicates, support for Americans overall is dramatically low for this program. Since peaking in 1980, the percentage of taxpayers opting to participate has declined from a high of 28.7% to 7%, obviously something that needs to be done away with. That means that 93% of American taxpayers choose not to participate. They refuse to subsidize political campaigns. And who can blame them? It's bad enough that they have to watch campaign commercials, but they have to pay for them with taxpayer dollars as well. The money designated by a checkoff on tax returns is diverted from those taxpayers' payments into this program, so every other taxpayer has to make up the difference in revenue to the Treasury. The 93% of taxpayers who do not participate have to make up for the money spent by the current 7% who do. Mr. Chairman, eliminating this system will save taxpayers an estimated $447 million over 5 years and immediately return nearly $200 million to the Treasury. This is sensible, and it's long overdue. Also long overdue is the elimination of the Election Assistance Commission. The EAC, created in 2002, as this chart indicates, was expected to sunset in 2005. Instead, as you see on the chart, Despite its dwindling services, Mr. Chairman, this agency has more than doubled its employee size in 3 years. This is clearly an abuse of what should have taken place. The EAC was established for a noble purpose to allocate federal grants for state voting systems upgrades, to conduct research, and to test and certify voting equipment. Aside from the certification services, which can be carried out by another agency, the EAC has fulfilled its purpose. Over $3 million has been sent to states over the years to help them modernize their voting equipment. Now the EAC has allocated all of its remaining election grants and even zeroed out its requests for additional grant funds in its last 3 annual budget requests. The National Association of Secretaries of State, a bipartisan group, the direct beneficiary of the EAC's dwindling services, has passed not 1 but 2 resolutions calling for the EAC's dissolution. As this chart indicates, the EAC's FY12 budget request devotes 51.7% of its budget to management and overhead costs, more than half. Under this plan, the agency would use $5.4 million to manage programs totaling $3.5 million. This bill would transfer the EAC's remaining valuable service, its voting system testing and certification program, to an existing agency instead of paying the overhead cost of a complete agency just to operate that program. Like its predecessor bill, H.R. 672, this bill maintains an advisory system to give state and local election officials input into the testing and certification program. Mr. Chairman, since December of 2010, the Election Assistance Commission has not had a quorum. That means it has not been able to make policy decisions requiring approval by the commissioners. Has anyone even noticed? Compared to the real crisis facing our country, has there been harm caused to justify keeping an obsolete agency? The EAC is not merely obsolete, it's also wasteful. I have spoken to this House before about the 2 hiring discrimination lawsuits against the EAC. Unfortunately, the more time that passes, the more problem comes to light. Just recently, we learned that a former EAC commissioner who continued serving for a year after the end of a term and then resigned has been collecting unemployment benefits. Neither the commissioner's resignation letter nor any facts that we know of indicate the departure was anything other than voluntary. When we have millions of people in this country struggling to make ends meet, how can a senior government official who leaves a job voluntarily collect unemployment benefits? When we have an agency that is not needed and produces scandal after scandal, misperformance after misperformance, it is time for this agency to go. According to the CBO, dissolving the EAC will save taxpayers $33 million over the next 5 years. Mr. Chairman, we have a $15 trillion debt. We have to start somewhere. We now have annual deficits over $1 trillion. H.R. 3463 eliminates one government program that virtually no one uses and shuts down an agency that has completed the task that it was assigned. Amazingly, we've had proposals not to shrink these programs, but to expand them. Only in Washington is the answer to dysfunction expansion. This bill will not cure all of the problems that we have on its own, but it is one of many steps we're going to have to take. Otherwise, we will sink deeper and deeper into debt and trap our children and grandchildren into a downward spiral. Today is the time to act, and this agency and this program are the place to start. I urge my colleagues to support H.R. 3463, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
I rise today in opposition to H.R. 3463. This is not new territory for this Congress. This proposal to eliminate the Presidential Election Campaign Fund and the Election Assistance Commission has already been dealt with in this Congress. The legislation before us proposes to combine these two really bad ideas. In an era of rapid changing election law, both in terms of campaign finance regulation and voting rights, these two programs are more important now than ever. The electoral landscape is much different today than it was even 4 short years ago. The Supreme Court allows unlimited contributions from special interests, and super PACs are raising vast amounts of funds with no government oversight or regulation. Corporations of special interest are donating massive sums of money, and some may expect a return on their investment. Unfortunately, this return often comes at the expense of the American people, and sometimes at the expense of the integrity of this body. We cannot expect the trust of the electorate if they feel they do not have a voice. We should provide transparency and accountability, no secrecy and irresponsibility. Just last Congress, my colleagues and I passed the Disclose Act, which called for more transparency in how our elections are financed, and that bill was killed by Senate Republicans. Members of the House, such as Mr. Van Hollen of Maryland and Mr. Larson of Connecticut, have authorized bills that would strengthen public finance of elections, not weaken it, as this bill does. When sources of funds are unintentionally concealed, what kind of message does this send to the country? It sends the message that we do not care where we get our contributions as long as they are substantial and they are secret, and that is wrong. We can reform the Presidential Election Campaign Fund without repealing it. This is the best course of action. Across the country, states are making it harder for voters to cast a ballot. New laws requiring voter identifications, strict and arbitrary voting registration regulations, and eliminating the days designed for early voting are all part of an effort to limit voter participation and turnout. Voters have noticed and have already started to push back. This was the case in Maine last month when they used the people's veto to throw out a law passed by the Republican legislator and governor to eliminate the state's successful same-day voter registration program, which has been in place for 40 years. In other states, restrictive new laws may be forced onto the ballot for possible repeal and referendums in 2012. If that wasn't bad enough, overworked and underpaid local election officials, volunteers, are expected to keep track of election law changes while still administrating large, complex, and often unpredictable elections. The Elections Assistance Commission does much of the heavy lifting for them, establishing and maintaining an informational database for all local election officials to utilize. The EAC also produces instructional videos and materials which cash-strapped election officials claim save them thousands of dollars annually. And the letters of support for the EAC, which have been also sent to my colleagues across the aisle, are still rolling in. I ask unanimous consent to include several such letters in the record at the end of my statement.
Without objection.
Thank you. The EAC essentially services do not stop there. The Commission is charged with the testing and certification of voting machines, the only agency in the federal government tasked to do this. Who will ensure that all of our votes are counted? Who will ensure that everyone has an opportunity to cast a ballot for their intended candidate? Who will ensure that we do not repeat the historical debacle of Florida in the year 2000? It is important to remember that events led to this establishment of the Presidential Election Campaign Fund and the EAC, the Watergate scandal of the early 1970s and Florida in 2000, respectively. These historical controversies eroded the public's faith in our political system. These measures were meant to restore their faith, to restore accountability to Washington, and most importantly, to ensure that people were heard. All this bill will do is weaken further what little faith the American electorate has left. Today I stand with every letter writer that has pleaded with us not to terminate the EAC. I stand with those who cannot afford to make huge contributions and would rather speak with their votes than their wallets. I, along with Democratic colleagues, stand with the principles that voter inclusion, not voter exclusion, is what we should strive for. And the attempted disenfranchisement of any eligible voter is despicable and beyond words and cannot be tolerated. On this bill, I urge a no vote, and Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.